Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk to you again. Hello, and welcome back to the couch. We saved you a seat. My name is Luke, and today we're going over chapter 22 of Project Hail Mary. You know the deal by now. We're doing chapter by chapter reactions. We release them each day, and today we're doing chapter 22. If you would like to follow along, there is a link to the description in the bio, but we're just going to get started. So, Ryland is enveloped in total darkness, which doesn't bother Rocky at all, because he doesn't deal with light. Ryland is basically helpless. And at this point, Ryland needs help. He needs help bad. It's funny that Rocky kind of ridicules him for being so dependent on light and technology later. Either way, he's got to find his way back to the cockpit. And so Rocky helps him navigate using the ladder and whatnot, because they're in gravity at the moment. And he's got to climb up the ladder and get to the display to see if he can engage some sort of power. So he gets there, he sees the LCD screen, he has the automated buttons, but some of the analog buttons as well. He notices that there's a readout that will tell him what's happening, that both generators are down, his primary and his secondary. He has a battery backup. It's controlled by a button. He pushes that button and he has a little bit of light, a little bit of life support. That's it though. That's all he's got. He's got to figure out what's going on. Once he engages the battery, a display shows him that he has about 5 days to live, just under 5 days, before he completely runs out of battery backup power. Rocky is a little concerned about life support, and of course, Ryland says, "It's a big ship. Don't consume that much O2. It will take several days before I have any issue with CO2." Ryland is lucky now too, because he has Rocky to kind of point him in the right direction when light isn't available. So he knows that the generators are located in and around the storage area, and he's got to go down and address that, which means crawling back into the crawl space with a drill and opening some doors and looking inside using some of the lights and different kinds of torches that he has within the ship. Opens a door, he checks several doors, but he detaches the generator, and he notices that there's gunk and goo inside and not astrophage. He thinks for a minute. There's like half a page or a quarter page of dialogue here. It's pretty interesting. In the end, he suddenly realizes the Talmiba, thank you people in the chat, the Talmiba have infiltrated the ship and eaten all of his astrophage that's gone through the generator. Now, he's screwed. He goes to Rocky and he's like, "I think we're gonna die here." And Rocky's like, "Well, no, not from this. Orbit's decaying. We'll die for that." Pretty funny joke from Rocky right there. I actually thought that was clever, because there's a line break in the text right there. So it's like, oh no, or the decaying orbit's gonna kill us faster. Don't worry about it. Pretty funny. I like that Rocky has learned human type sarcasm. It's pretty good. After a day of coming up with some sort of process or mechanism to get the ship out of orbit, Rocky has the plan to clean the generator and have the astrophage that he has in his environment in an airtight vessel. That way, they can continue to use the generators. Once Ryland retrieves the generator and is able to give it to him, he talks about how exhausted he is. Rocky then says, "It's time for you to go to bed. I have the generator. I'll clean it out. I'll do all the things. It's time for you to go to bed." So Ryland makes a goofy Beatles reference. It's been a hard day's night. And then he realizes that there's independent thrust from each of the Beatles that he could use to get the ship out of this decaying orbit. And he communicates that to Rocky, and then Rocky's like, "Great, go to bed." Hilarious. Because he has a mom now, which is pretty funny. After Ryland gets up from his sleep and he's out in his EVA suit, he realizes how difficult this will be. It was all fun and games and it was theoretical, but now he has to do an EVA in gravity on a position on the ship that has nowhere to tether to and nowhere to really hold on. It's actually the scariest scene in the book so far, to me. The lights going out on a spaceship, frightening. I would be so unbelievably concerned. But once I realized, Strat and the people on Earth would position the ship in a good place for this, just in case there would be some sort of battery backup, something to keep the ship afloat for at least a little while the crew could figure out how to address it, I'd be okay. The EVA suit in gravity, right? It's not 0G, you can't just float. In gravity, with nowhere to tether to, holding onto the nose cone, with both the people of Arid and the people of Earth hanging in the balance, and you have to use a drill to remove plates so you can remove these tiny devices that have their own fuel source, that if anything happened with them, it would just blow you up too, and then take them back into the ship with only 2 hands. And even, there's a joke here where he undoes one of the bolts and drops it into space. And he says to Rocky, hey, is it hard for you or difficult for you to create more bolts? Rocky's like, of course not. I got that. He's like, great. I lost one. And Rocky's like, hold on to it. He's like, I have a drill. What do you mean? He's like, well, then hold on to it with the other hand. He's like, I got to do stuff with that other hand. He's like, hold on to your third hand. Oh, be better next time. Super funny. It's like uncle energy. My uncle would say something like that. He'd be like, just be better. What do you mean? Once Ryland gets back inside, and I don't mean to skip past this uber scary part. I'm telling you, for me, this is the scariest part of this book. This, like, I imagine he's just holding on to it like it's one of those big foam pole things, you know what I'm talking about, that they have on like American Ninja Warrior, and it's just moving around. You're just watching a planet move around while you move around, and you're in this bulky suit with a drill in one hand, other tools on a belt, and a helmet on, and you're seeing the sun every 90 seconds or 45 seconds or however long it is. That would freak me out. Regardless, he gets back inside and he hands Rocky the beetle, one of the beetles. And it takes Rocky about 2 hours to kind of take it apart. It takes him another hour to sort of manipulate it so that they can attach it to the hull of the ship. And then he does that for the other 2. Remember, they're still in a decaying orbit. Every 90 minutes, they get closer and closer to skimming off the atmosphere of Adrian. So then, after 3-4 hours, Ryland has to go back out and reattach the beetles, 3 of the 4, because he needs to save one just in case, to the hull of the ship. This is less scary, but still scary. They're still in centrifuge mode. And if we go back to the diagram, just in case you guys forgot, see if I can pull it up real quick. If we go back to the diagram, this, I don't know if you can see it, is centrifuge mode. So Ryland has to go from the front to the back in gravity with an EVA suit on. But thankfully, they answer the question in the book. They say there are loops along the 4 or 5 cables that he can just attach to and careen himself across in the suit, which is better, not worse. But gravity gets worse as he goes in, and then, it gets better, like he gets closer to 0G as he goes in toward the center of the centrifuge, and then back to more G as he goes out. So he still has to deal with those things. But this is less dangerous than him climbing to the nose of the ship, where it would be right here, and just holding on for dear life. Super, super scary. Then, Ryland finally gets back in the ship. Now let's talk about this for a moment. The last couple of chapters, Ryland's dealt with a lot. He's gotten slammed by a chair. He's had to do some crazy EVAs. He's had to position the ship above a planet that we'll call has a hostile environment, because that's what it is. he has to capture these things. He has to hope that it works. He has to build a chain with 5-centimeter chain that's 10 kilometers long. Yeah, I missed that one in an earlier chapter. Thanks for the correction. That's 10 kilometers long, and hope it works. He's got to fly this ship. He's not a pilot, right? He's a biologist. He's a scientist, a bright guy, but a scientist. He has a helper, but the helper can't see anything, and all of the things, all of the instruments that he has are mostly visual. He's had a tough go of it these past couple of days. Now, he's got to stop the centrifuge so they can engage the beetles and take the ship back to the blip A. And they have to do it so that they can continue the test on the Talmeba, thank you again, Talmeba, to see if it can sustain life on Venus and 3 World. But my man has faced some adversity, I'd say. More adversity than I would be comfortable with. But we're still not done with the chapter, and we'll talk about adversity in a second. So, Ryland has to re-engage the centrifuge, and then they're going to jettison themselves away from the planet, and then back towards the blip A. Here's the problem. Physics. So if he re-engages the centrifuge, and they come back, he is still going to feel the 6G forces. That entropy never stopped. It's still the same energy. So, thankfully, the beetles are connected to a device with Rocky. Rocky is able to control them. And since Rocky has a more durable body, could handle the G forces, Ryland says, look, I might pass out. And he's like, is it unsafe or unhealthy? And Ryland's like, yeah, I'm gonna need you just to keep going because I'll just wake back up. Hopefully. And so Ryland engages the centrifuge, and he starts to feel all 6Gs. He talks about his face drooping and all sorts of things. And then Rocky engages the thrusters and gets them up to a place where they're not kind of stuck. Ryland comes to, and he's better now. So at the very least, at the end of this chapter, we are on our way. We're at least out of that weird orbit. I don't know if we're on our way back to the blip A. Right. Ryland's doing a ton of math so they can find their way back to the blip A. The beetles will be able to thrust them that far, according to Ryland. But yeah. And they have all the materials to run the tests. And at this point, they'll be at 1.5 G, so they can use all the instruments in the lab. But they desperately need to make sure that Talmeba can do the job, or they have to go back to Adrian. I hope they don't have to go back to Adrian. That was crazy. And they have to get the astrophage off of the blip A so that the Hail Mary can continue on its journey back to Earth. Hopefully. That's it. Yeah, I mean, that's the end of the chapter. Honestly, the scariest moment of the book so far was him crawling out of the ship and onto the nose cone of the Hail Mary. It freaked me out reading it. Being in darkness on a spaceship in the middle of the solar system is super, super scary. But again, having seen movies, having understood my peers within that space, I would have thought, yeah, they have a plan for this. They have backups and redundancies upon redundancies upon redundancies. That's just kind of how that works. Ryland is also, and what's interesting about Ryland is throughout the book, they don't talk about it overtly, but he is also phenomenal at troubleshooting. It's part of his whole practice in being a scientist. And he respects his peers. And that is something that faithfulness and redundancy is something that he would respect in them. He understands that's how things work. Let me tell you, if you want to become a professional in any way, facet, or form, find a way to make all of your processes, or as many of your processes as you can, as redundant as possible. Believe me, I've done that with this, and it saved me a ton of time. Regardless, at least Ryland and Rocky are heading back to the blip A. They have room for science. They have room for everything else, hopefully they'll be able to figure out a way to get Astrophage back on the ship from the blip A. Hopefully they'll be able to communicate back with Earth, either with the Beatles or Ryland makes it back. I hope Ryland makes it back. I think it'd be funny to see a statue of himself. I think he'd kind of hate it, to be honest with you. If Ryland like walked onto the promenade somewhere in like New York City or in Russia and he's just standing there, I see Ryan Gosling in my head, but he's just standing there like proud, and he's like holding a model of the Hail Mary or whatever. That would be crazy. The other thing, and I think I talked about this in a previous video, but like Astrophage. You'd think after 20 years of astrophage science, humans would have figured out some stuff. Like a lot of stuff. I mean, think where we were 20 years ago. We have AI. It's wild. It's not great, but it's there. Yeah, think about what that. It's crazy. Anyway, I think that'll be it for me. Yeah, chapter 22 was great. I had a great time with it. Super scary, kind of short. We're going to be traveling back to the blip A. I wonder how the experiments are going to go. I wonder what's going to happen. But I think we're done here. So if you like this comment, please like, share, and subscribe. If you want to follow along, remember, there is a link in the description. You can just go down, purchase the book. It helps me out. If you don't want the book, or if you already have the book, but you still want to help me out, best thing to do, just buy other stuff on Amazon from that link. It'd be great. But until next time, later, taters.